Kevin Porter Jr. absolutely on fire from behind the three-point line in this game, but unfortunately it wasn't enough as the Rockets fall to the New Orleans Pelicans for the second straight meeting between these two teams, 110-97. Turnovers, missed easy shot opportunities is what did the Rockets in. Can you guess which Rocket starter finished with the highest usage rating in this game and which Rocket starter finished with the lowest usage rating in this one? We're going to break it all down for you right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
With the second pick in the 2021 NBA Draft, the Houston Rockets select Jalen Green.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep getting better every day. I'm going to keep perfecting my craft. And every time I step on that floor, I'm coming.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and also host of Locked On NBA Mondays. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin and the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Check out prizepicks.com and use promo code NBA or go to your app store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. As always, appreciate you for making Locked On Rockets your first listen each and every day. Now, I'm going to be talking about this Rockets-Pelicans game. Rockets falling for the second straight game to the New Orleans Pelicans, 110-97. Kevin Porter Jr. absolutely on fire in this game. 27 points on 7 of 12 shooting from behind the three-point line. KPJ was on a roll from distance in this one. We're going to talk about his game. I'm going to talk about Jalen Green and his growth as an offensive decision maker. And even though sometimes the shots aren't going in, that we're seeing the growth out of him on that side of the basketball. And we're seeing him make the right decisions and right reads consistently. We're going to talk about who had the highest usage rating on the Rockets in this game, as well as who had the lowest usage rating. Can you guess who those two players are and why? We're going to talk about them. And then also in the third segment, I want to get into a little bit of the trades around the NBA. CJ McCollum headed to the New Orleans Pelicans. Domantas Sabonis headed to the Sacramento Kings. Tyrese Halliburton headed out east to the Indiana Pacers. Going to kind of get into some of those trade thoughts in segment 3. But where I want to start right now is with Kevin Porter Jr. Because throughout this whole season, the Rockets organization has made it a priority to nurture and grow and develop Kevin Porter Jr. this year. And at points throughout the season, I had my doubts, to be completely honest, as to whether or not it was truly going to pan out with KPJ as the, quote unquote point guard of the future. And even at times I wondered if KPJ, if them prioritizing KPJ's development so much was at times having an adverse effect on Jalen Green's development because they weren't highlighting him enough. They weren't utilizing him enough. They weren't featuring him enough as the number 2 overall pick. And I still think that's kind of the case to this point, but it's starting to pay off with KPJ. We're starting to see the trends and the development. Over these last, 15 or so games, it's mainly been the turnovers and the playmaking that we've been highlighting, but hands down, one of the best developments for KPJ this season on the year, he is now sitting at just under 37% shooting from behind the three-point line. And over these last 15 games since, the January 1st, New Year's Day incident at halftime, since coming back for, gets suspended for the one game and then comes back and hits the game winner against Washington. In that 15-game stretch since then, he is shooting a skosh over 42% from behind the three-point line on, how many attempts a game was this? I want to make sure. On just over 6 attempts a night. That is becoming a pretty decent sample size. And if KPJ can keep this shooting up through the end of the season, then I think we can confidently say that KPJ is really developing into a, consistent, albeit, elite 3-point shooter. And that's exactly what you want to see out of him, because having that 3 ball in his favor on a nightly basis is what opens up so much of the rest of his game. It's what opens up his ability to drive, which therefore opens up his ability to score at the rim, to unlock his mid-range game a little bit, to create for his teammates, to utilize that scoring gravity to make life easier for him as the point guard. Now, I will say that in this game, KPJ did have his highest turnover total in a while. He finished with 7 turnovers in this one. It's his most turnovers. He hasn't cracked 5 turnovers since all the way back in December. So this is his first, I apologize. He did have 1 5 turnover game against the Golden State Warriors. My bad there. And he had a 6 turnover game. I glazed over those. But that being said, the 7 turnovers, you'd like to see that be a little bit better. That's kind of, what was one of the other issues in this game for the Houston Rockets was just turning the ball over incessantly. The team finished with 21 turnovers to the tune of 25 Warriors points. I'm getting all flipped up with my names now. That's what I get for looking at Basketball Reference like mid podcast. 21 turnovers to the tune of 25 Pelicans points in this one. And if I had to like summarize the theme of this game, it has to be the Rockets shooting themselves in their own foot, because the Pelicans did not play a pretty game by any stretch of the imagination. They only shot 25% from behind the 3-point line. The Pelicans themselves had 19 turnovers. The Pels didn't have like a master class of a game. The Rockets, for all intents and purposes, should have absolutely been in this game, but they had so many opportunities where they were just missing bunnies at the rim or wide open shots. The Rockets with just 37% shooting from the floor, 31% shooting from 3. And sometimes that's what it boils down to. Like, especially when the shot quality at times is really good for the Rockets, then, all you can do is just, sometimes the shots just aren't going in. And the turnovers are definitely a concern. And that's something that Steven Silas has been harping on, that he wants to see cut down significantly. So the 21 turnovers, and again, the 7 specifically from KPJ, I don't want to blow it out of proportion. KPJ has been really, really great as of late about not turning the basketball over. I think this was just a case of at times doing a little bit too much in this game, right? Just, trying to, thread the needle in certain areas, trying to make things happen that weren't exactly there at times, really trying to force the issue offensively rather than kind of slowing things down, letting the game kind of progress and evolve naturally. But it was a great sign to see KPJ on fire from behind the 3-point line. The 7 of 12 3-point shooting is a season high. The 7 made triples. The 27 points is a season high for KPJ. Obviously not a career high, because we know what KPJ's career high looks like, going for 50 against the Milwaukee Bucks. But 9 of 16 overall shooting, had his 3 rebounds, had 5 assists, did have a steal mixed in there. An overall really solid night for KPJ. Again, you'd like to see those turnovers cut down by about 3 or 4 so that he's not finishing, above, with 7 of them. But other than that, an encouraging night from KPJ. And it's good to see that he can still, when he needs to, explode and put the basketball in the hole. We haven't seen that in a while from KPJ because he's been so intent and so focused on being the primary facilitator for this Rockets team. It's felt like he's really only ever stepped in and had to take over the scoring burden down the stretch in some of these games, fourth quarter Porter, if you will. And so it was kind of cool to see him have a night where, okay, nobody else has it going. Let me just step up and drill multiple threes to start the game. And let me just kind of carry the offense on my shoulders through this one. So coming up, I want to get into talking a little bit about usage ratings and which players were at the top of that spectrum in this Rockets game and which players were at the bottom of the spectrum in this game, as well as just kind of a little bit of the game flow. And then segment 3, we'll get into some of the big trades taking place around the NBA, some of my thoughts on those. But first, a quick message from our friends over at Prize Picks, because if you're looking for a daily fantasy option for the NBA, you've got to check out the award-winning app Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. You're going to love it. I know you will. You've got to check it out. It's so easy to use. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times back on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Look, when it comes to Prize Picks, they don't just offer NBA. They have options on college basketball, college football, NFL, MLB, soccer, MMA, and more. For a limited time, Prize Picks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our listeners. Listeners get $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores just a single point. And all you got to do is use promo code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available for Locked On Rockets listeners. Sign up today and use code NBA. $50 for free if a player in your first Prize Picks entry scores just a single point. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, appreciate you for making Locked On Rockets your first listen each and every day. The NBA trade deadline is Thursday, February 10th at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And the Locked On NBA podcast is going to be covering it live from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Join Kim Becker, John Corrales, and Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to get live analysis of every blockbuster move. You know I'm going to be there if the Rockets make a move, so be sure to check it out. It's always good fun. I hosted it last year. Do not want to miss out on the live trade deadline show. So let's keep talking about this Rockets Pelicans game. Little bit of the game flow in this one. I mean, the Rockets jumped out to a super early lead, and then the Pelicans kind of roared back into this game at the end of the first quarter, took the lead 35-30, built on that lead in the second quarter, went into halftime with a double-digit comfortable 11-point lead, and basically never let go of the lead the rest of the game. Like every single time the Rockets cut it to 8 points, 6 points, it just trimming the lead, kind of fighting their way, getting back into the game. And it was always, turnover, missed shot, answer from the Pelicans, just every single time down the floor. And so a lot of the issues in this game for the Rockets were self-inflicted. It wasn't for lack of trying. It wasn't for lack of hustle. There was a series in this game, a series of possessions in this game where Garrison Matthews is all hustle all the time. He had single-handedly in one possession had 2 or 3 offensive rebounds. How many did they actually credit him with? Okay, well, he finished with 4 offensive rebounds. It was like one single possession where Garrison Matthews was credited for 2 or 3 offensive boards in a row, and the Rockets just could not buy themselves a bucket. And by the end, you see Garrison Matthews, he's just slamming his fists on the floor because the Rockets just could not buy a bucket. They couldn't get anything to go, despite all the hard work trying to, secure those second chance opportunities. And it was just one of those kinds of games. There was just an absolute lid on the basket for practically everybody on the floor, not named Kevin Porter Jr., honestly. You just go down the lineup, and I mean, Seawood was 3 of 8 from 3-point shooting. Alperen Şengün was 0 of 2. KPJ was 7 of 12. Jalen Green was 2 of 7 because they decided to revoke one of his 3-pointers because he stepped out of bounds early, the very first 3 that he hit in this game. The Rockets bench was a combined, what is this? Math is hard. Combined 1 for 11 3-point shooting. It was just rough basketball all around in this game. Shots were not going in. And I will say, I want to keep going. I want to highlight another positive here, and then I'll go into some negativity because I had some frustrations watching this game, namely with Christian Wood. Jalen Green, despite, not having, a flashy numbers night, just 12 points, 5 of 12 shooting. So 2 of 7 from behind the arc. Already highlighted that. Missed his only free throw attempt. Had 3 boards, had 4 assists, had a steal, and only 1 turnover. The offensive decision-making from Jalen Green has gotten so much better. And that's collectively, ignoring the shooting numbers, because shooting will come and go with time, right? You will be in shooting slumps up and down throughout your entire career, unless you're one of the all-time great shooters. And even then, sometimes all-time great shooters fall into a funk, i.e. Steph Curry for the month of January. So that said, shooting will come and go. But seeing the decision-making that Jalen Green is developing offensively, making the right reads, making the right decisions of when to drive the basketball, who to kick the basketball to, how to operate in the pick and roll, reading when guys go under the screen and deciding to take those shots rather than hesitating like he was earlier in the season, seeing him have that growth on that side of the basketball is great, because again, that's what this season is about. And I urge you, if you're watching all of these games, don't just pay attention and watch to see if the ball is going in the bucket, right? Like that's casual level basketball. I'm sorry. And I don't mean to be like offensive with that. I'm just saying, like, for the people clamoring for Jalen Green's not developing, he's not growing. Yes, he is. Like you're seeing it on a nightly basis, but you've really got to watch for what he's doing in this game. He had multiple drives in this game where he made the exact right read, kicked it out to the next shooter, got the open shot for the Rockets offense, and then clank right off the iron. So, that's all he can do, right? Is if Jalen Green is making the right decisions and the right reads for himself and for his teammates, that's all you can expect out of him. And sometimes the shots are going to go in and sometimes they're not going to go in. It's that simple. But in this game, I was incredibly encouraged by how Jalen Green was reading the offense and the decision-making that he had in this game. Jalen Green finished with the second highest assist percentage on the team, just behind Kevin Porter Jr. Jalen Green finished with a 23.5% assist percentage in this game. And that's impressive, considering the fact that of the Rockets starters, Jalen Green finished with the lowest usage rating. So just a 16% usage rating for Jalen Green in this game. Can you guess who had the highest usage rating in this game? That would be one Christian Wood, at a staggering 28.9% usage rating in this one. Conversely, Christian Wood had just a 5.3% assist rating in this one. Just pretty rough from Christian Wood. And that's where some of my frustrations lie, because ultimately, I harped on this during the game, but Christian Wood has to lead the league in possessions where nobody else touches the basketball, because he gets the rebound, comes down the floor, and he either goes into a three-pointer or a drive or, a post-up opportunity, and at no point does anybody else touch the basketball. And I'm sorry, Christian isn't that good of a player to do that, to like ice everybody else out of the offense. And I will say, look, sometimes it works, right? Sometimes it works, and sometimes he gets to the free throw line and good things happen. But other times it's forced shot opportunities, and it takes everybody else out of the flow of the offense. Nobody else is touching the basketball, and you're not Giannis, you're not LeBron, you're not James Harden, you're not Luka. Like, I'm sorry, get other guys involved in the offense. Christian Wood could very easily average 5, 6, 7 assists a night if he would just survey the court and be aware of where his teammates were at before dropping his head down and barreling into the defense. The play that really set me off last night was with about little under 2 minutes to go in the game. And yeah, the side note here that really ticked me off is the Rockets were playing like they lost this game from like the 4 or 5 minute mark of the fourth quarter. Like, the body language was bad. Guys were kind of hanging their heads, kind of moping up and down the court. And that's not we haven't seen that a lot out of this Rockets team. Like, largely they fight tooth and nail to the end of these games. But the body language in this one really annoyed me at the end of this one, because they could have very easily fought their way back into this had they just actually locked in and played some solid defense and not let Brandon Ingram get whatever he wanted offensively. They kind of got in their heads a little bit with the referees. I will admit there were some really annoying calls in this game on both sides. Like, the refs were in their bag. Jonas Valanciunas had some complaints to be had. Jae'Sean Tate had some complaints to be had. Al P had some, everybody was ticked off with the officials in this game. That said, the Rockets could have easily been back in this game, but with under 2 minutes to go, game's almost a lost cause at this point. So I can't harp on it too much, but Rockets bring the ball up. Christian Wood is just at the 3-point line, just hands down, give me the ball. And KPJ is on the other wing, wide open. There's one defender in between KPJ and Wood. And as soon as the pass comes to Wood, that defender has to cut Christian Wood off. So KPJ is wide open in the corner. And at that point, he was 7 of 11 shooting from behind the 3-point line. KPJ is on fire from long distance. And Christian Wood just gets the pass and immediately barrels into the paint. Doesn't look to swing it to the next guy on the wing. Doesn't look to kick it to the next man. Just barrels straight in. He draws the foul. He gets to the free throw line, sure. But not hitting your teammate who is on fire from behind the 3-point line for a wide open shot in the corner is just basketball malpractice. I'm sorry. And KPJ immediately had he was in the corner and he kind of had rolled his eyes, shrugged his shoulders, spun on his heel. Like, come on, man, I was wide open. And there were multiple opportunities throughout this game where you can go back and watch Christian Wood. Multiple screenshots are floating around on Twitter where you can see Christian Wood has Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr. wide open all throughout this game. Multiple opportunities. Garrison Matthews wide open. And instead will drive and try to make a move in between 2-3 defenders sometimes. And again, sometimes it ends in a foul call with Christian Wood going to the free throw line. Sometimes he's able to just rise up over the defense and score because he's that talented, sure. And then other times it ends in a bad shot or a turnover. Like, it's limiting those bad possessions, and he could turn those into so much better quality possessions for the team and play really great team basketball and get his teammates quality shots. And he just doesn't. And it's frustrating. And that's one of the reasons that at this point, I'd rather see Christian Wood be shipped out at the trade deadline. Yeah. It's that simple. I don't think Christian Wood is conducive to team-oriented basketball. And however much, the players talk about how much they enjoy his presence, how much they enjoy, him being around him, all of that the locker room vibes are immaculate, all that stuff. It's got to wear on them. Like, it's got to be frustrating. And those little nuances, those moments on the court, they show, right? Like, we see players reacting and holding their hands out like he's open, like hit him with the pass, those moments. So those are my points and takeaways from this Pelicans game. It's, a frustrating loss. Rockets could have absolutely won this game. And it, would have been sweet to win this game after losing to the Pelicans on their home court. But coming up, I do want to talk a little bit about the trades around the NBA and kind of some general thoughts on the moves being made. And we're going to get there after a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar. Because look, when it comes to the new year, if you're going through your New Year's resolutions right now, if you're trying to cut back a little bit, Built Bar can help you because it's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Honestly, it's better than a candy bar because, one, they've got so many incredible flavors to choose from: strawberry, mint brownie, cookies and cream, peanut butter, my personal favorite, coconut brownie chunk. You can't go wrong with a single bar on their menu. Every single bar is low cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. Amazing if you're on a keto diet. Amazing if you're trying to stick to your New Year's resolutions. And you can check them out. Just go to built.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your very next order of the best tasting protein bars on the market. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at built.com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, appreciate you for making Locked On Rockets your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Make a little bit of money with Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Now, navigating a little bit away from the Houston Rockets here just to take a look at the league at large. And I'll tie this back into the Houston Rockets here, but the two biggest deals are CJ McCollum headed to the New Orleans Pelicans. That's why we wound up not seeing that's why we wound up not seeing a big chunk of Pelicans players in this game. Josh Hart, Nickeil Alexander-Walker specifically, who just played against the Rockets in Houston in the first meeting between these two teams, as well as Thomas Satoransky and Didi Louzada, and a future first-round pick and two future second-round picks going to the Blazers, but the Pelicans picking up CJ McCollum, Larry Nance Jr., and Tony Snell. First off, I love this pickup for the Pelicans. I think that if they ever get Zion Williamson back in their lineup, they could be, a really interesting team here in the Southwest Division and in the Western Conference. And, maybe we'll see what kind of push they're going to make in the West over the course of the rest of this season. But Herb Jones, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Zion Williamson, Jonas Valanciunas, not Nickeil Alexander-Walker being shipped out, but, a really interesting core for the Pelicans. It'll be really interesting to see how they move forward from here. CJ McCollum a little bit older than the rest of that young core, so kind of TBD there. The Trailblazers are very clear. Like all the angles are suggesting that they're trying to formulate a true retooling around Damian Lillard, but some of it just the optics do not look great on it. If Dame is signing off on all these moves and if he's going to try and, recruit heavily this summer, the Blazers are reportedly going to have up to like 60 million in cap room potentially this upcoming offseason to sign a big name free agent or a couple different guys to try and pair with Dame. I mean, I guess that's the route they're going to go, but things do not look great in Portland right now. And then the other big deal, and this one was the surprising one to me, was the Sabonis Halliburton trade. So the Pacers trading Sabonis, Domantas Sabonis, Jeremy Lamb, and Justin Holiday, and a 2027 second round pick to the Kings for Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Holy crap, are the Kings being the most Kangsy version of themselves with this trade? I mean, to move on from Tyrese Halliburton, who has, like, to me, future like star potential. Although, I mean, he is such a talented individual. He was like leading the league in points per possession, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Just, I thought this was an absurd trade for the Kings, and they're clearly under some, upper management edict to try and really push and make the playoffs this season. And I kind of think it speaks to the market value of De'Aaron Fox, the fact that they weren't able to move De'Aaron Fox this deadline and instead had to move Tyrese Halliburton. And even then, Fox and Sabonis defensively is kind of a gigantic question mark. I love this move for the Pacers, though. I think they come away as just bandits in this one. And between Sabonis and Turner, I think Sabonis is kind of the more talented player right now, but I think Turner is the easier player to build around. And I think the Pacers made the right decision in moving Sabonis and really kind of angling themselves toward their future with the pickup of Halliburton, and Buddy Hield's not bad either. That contract is kind of whatever. But as far as these two trades are concerned, one, that takes the Kings off the market as what I thought is, a potential Christian Wood trade destination. Not that they couldn't still maybe, make a move for Wood to pair him with Sabonis in that front court, but then you're looking at, again, a defensive dumpster fire of a team. So maybe Richaun Holmes is on the way out now if you're the Sacramento Kings, and that also kind of weakens the market for Christian Wood, unfortunately, because if there's a team out there that would potentially be looking for a center, or even potentially like a secondary center in a Daniel Tice type, if Richaun Holmes is on the market because Sabonis is now in Sacramento, then that just makes things harder for Christian Wood or Daniel Tice to potentially find a new home for the Houston Rockets. And then similarly to the situation with Karis LeVert going to the Cleveland Cavaliers, I think that kind of sets the bar for the market for Eric Gordon. But looking around now at the rest of the pieces this trade deadline, the guys who are, understandably on the trade block, with, almost less than a day to go until the trade deadline officially hits, Eric Gordon and like Jeremy Grant are like the two top names that could potentially still be moved if the Sixers are hell-bent on keeping Ben Simmons. And if the Nets are supposedly not trading James Harden, then you move past those two big names, and there's not really any other rumors of any other big names being moved. So the impact players left here at the deadline are Jeremy Grant and Eric Gordon. So that could actually do the Rockets a huge favor by having the market kind of shift towards those two remaining names as guys that teams could be taking a look at to try and make a significant push in the playoffs, or to try to solidify their roster and round things out headed into the postseason. It sounds like Thaddeus Young and the Spurs are going to be working towards a buyout. He was another interesting kind of veteran name that I was wondering if the Spurs were going to try and flip here at the deadline and receive a little bit of value back for. But if he's just going to walk away as a buyout candidate, one, whatever team gets Thad Young as a buyout is going to be like, that's going to be great for them. And then two, again, that just clears the way for the Rockets to make a splash with Eric Gordon if they can. And, EG still sitting out with the day-to-day plantar fasciitis, all that good stuff. But, is it a real injury? Is he just sitting out because the Rockets are putting him on ice until the trade deadline, trying to see what they can get back for him? All of that, I don't know. But at this point, I have resigned myself that the Rockets probably aren't going to be able to find a deal for Christian Wood. It sounds like the market isn't that high on Christian Wood at this point. And, if the Rockets have an internal belief that he's worth more than just one first-round draft pick or one future first-round draft pick, then they'd probably be better off to hold Christian Wood until this summer. Even though I had my Christian Wood rant in segment 2, I still don't want the Rockets to flip him for, less than a suboptimal return, honestly, at this deadline. So no need to rush away from Christian Wood. They can still utilize him the back half of the season, and they can try to move him, this summer, draft night, what have you, going into next season. The bird rights on Christian Wood are a big one that I've mentioned here on this podcast before. Any team that potentially wants to secure his services, I'd definitely be interested in looking at that. I would still very much keep my eyes on the Charlotte Hornets as far as just Christian Wood's potential fit there. PJ Washington continues to be a name that's thrown about the rumor mill heading into this trade deadline. So I'd absolutely keep my eyes on the Hornets as a potential suitor for Christian Wood. Also, I come back to the Toronto Raptors would be a team that makes a lot of sense for Christian Wood and would be able to highlight his talent specifically. Eric Gordon, at this point, I don't know what the Rockets are going to do with EG. I've almost kind of resigned myself to the fact that they may just not move him if they feel that they can get a better deal for him this upcoming summer. I think that's a mistake. I think it'd be malpractice to not move Eric Gordon this trade deadline, but we'll see. It'll be a very interesting trade deadline. We're going to have a trade deadline primer episode out for you coming out. It should be out Wednesday evening, hoping to get that out earlier than Thursday morning so that it has a little bit of a longer shelf life on it. But that's going to do it for today's episode. As always, appreciate you for checking out the show. If you haven't done so yet, please consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, brand new Odyssey app, free and available on all platforms. Also, check out the show on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Locked On Rockets, like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff. Jalen Green, you should have the ball in his hands more, right? Let me know what you think in the comments on the YouTube channel. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.
Thank you.